Hello everyone, and thank you for taking the time to watch our video on our final project unit design. Our unit it's all about the Bill of Rights, brought to you by Megan, Charity, and myself. Please sit back and enjoy. Now, I'm going to be switching tabs quite a bit here, so I think a good idea will be to keep it in presenter view. It'll just make it easier. All right, let's begin. So knowing the learners. The classroom we're using for this unit is a very diverse group of 16 learners. There are students of Hispanic, Asian, and Caucasian ethnicities. These three students are in the ELL program, which is why the unit contains modified activities and opportunities to use technology like Google Translate to help student comprehension. We cover a lot of different learning standards in this unit. In an effort to save time, I'm not going to show every specific standard covered, but rather give an overview of them. First, we are very proud to have used some standards from the brand new Illinois Social Studies standards. These were launched fairly recently and were modeled after the C3 standards. Here's a link that takes us to the ISB website, and it shows us some of those. If we look into the civics standards, we use this one here, explain the origins, functions, and structures of a government with reference to the U.S. Constitution, as well as the one right below it, analyze the ideas and principles contained in the founding documents of the United States. Pretty interesting stuff. Since we're talking about reading some nonfiction texts, we are also covering some of the Common Core state standards in literacy. I think we're all very familiar with these, so I'll move on to the learning objectives. Again, we don't have to go into great detail here, but know that our student objectives and learning goals are connected to the standards. They are tested on what the standards require. For our learning theory, the specific theory we have chosen for this unit is the anchored instruction theory. It was created by John Bransford in 1990 and centers around problem-based learning and goal-based scenarios. To sum it up, the students are given a problem and have to work together to come up with a solution. Students use their background knowledge and scaffolding provided by the instructor to construct a solution to their problem. As you can see here, this chart shows a pretty good comparison of how the student bounces ideas off of the teacher, other class members, to construct ideas. So in the anchored instruction theory, teachers or the facilitators are responsible for providing the problem. You will see our specific problem when we get into the day-to-day lessons. The teachers monitor student progress and scaffold as needed, providing some help and support, like adding information or even reteaching if necessary. They are essentially coaches, letting the students be the ones doing the problem solving. The students listen to the problem. This is the anchor, and it is usually presented in the form of a story. The students usually work in groups to gather and use information to construct solutions to the problem. They can share their ideas with others who can offer feedback. A lot of times, there can be more than one solution to the anchor problem. Students can discuss which solution might be the best for that specific problem. All right, let's talk about our daily activities. On day one, students will watch a presentation on the Bill of Rights. Here's the Google presentation. And actually, as you'll see, it's pretty unique in that, I'm going to open it up into full view here. It goes in, and not only does it have specific content, but it also has picture representations of all of these. If I keep on going on, you can see that the pictures enhance comprehension and understanding throughout. Again, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go through all of that. But this is the handout that goes with the activity, where the students would name the different amendment and write down notes necessary for remembering each of their Bill of Rights amendments. This part of the lesson is a great example of the SAMR model of substitution. The students could get the same information from the textbook, but the presentation has been substituted and contains more images to help comprehension. On day two, the students have a station activity to help them build more background knowledge they'll eventually need for their anchor problem. They will have to identify specific clues such as a microphone, newspaper, soldier action figures, pictures of protesters, speed limit signs, a picture of a lawyer and jury, stuff like that, and apply them to the Bill of Rights. Then students will justify their reasoning right here in this explanation box. So they're kind of going to bounce around from station to station with different artifacts, if you will, to be able to help analyze each Bill of Rights amendment. On day 3, students will continue to apply their understanding of the basic rights and freedoms by applying the Bill of Rights to specific scenarios. The teacher can scaffold this lesson by showing how to identify key words that will help identify the correct answer. For example, the teacher can explain what a rally is, if we take a look, right to organize rallies in the park, which then could help learners identify this is an example of freedom of assembly. We also have a modified version prepared for our ELL students or perhaps any other learners that might require extra scaffolding. Pictures are used to support these students. On day 4, we begin class with a Google form. This is used to check the student's level of comprehension. The teacher can use this information to see if any reteaching is necessary. They can put in their name, the class that they're in, and then there's a short matching situation here. We also introduce our main anchored instructional problem today. In this goal-based scenario, students will be split into groups and given a specific court case problem. The students will have to work in their groups to identify the specific amendment as well as a solution to the problem. They are required to make an infographic that represents their amendment. This is an example of SAMR level augmentation because the students can all work together on this and everyone can contribute either in class or at their separate homes. We'll show you a finished infographic later in this presentation. Here's just a few examples of something that they could potentially create or use as a starting point for their project. On day 5, students will simply continue to work in groups and on their infographic. This is the step in the theory where learners take their ownership over their problem solving. We call it scenario operations. They are expected to finish their project on this day. On day 6, each group presents the solutions to their scenarios. They are presenting to the jury, which actually is just their fellow classmates. There will be a class-wide discussion about the pros and cons of their solutions, and we can use clickers to vote for the solution if the problem was effectively solved, cases of guilt or innocence, or any other situation that arises from students' work. On day 7, students can use the feedback from day 6 to make revisions to their infographic and solution. Their infographic is submitted for grading. And here on day 8, the formal assessment is given. First, we'll take a look at the formal assessment. As you can see, it's mostly matching here, but it tests to the standards of being able to identify all of these different rights. Again, there is a modified version with more images to aid students. In fact, they are the same images from previously used. The technology in this unit was already discussed throughout day-to-day lessons, but this also shows a picture of the clickers used to help provide feedback to the student groups. A lot of information was already covered, but here are the ways the unit is differentiated. Students can use Google Translate to help them comprehend vocabulary. There are guarded or scaffolded vocabulary lessons with pictures and images, and of course peer-to-peer interactions will help as well. These are the handouts used in the unit. Again, they have already been discussed, so we're going to keep on moving. This would be an example of an infographic made by a student for their project. This is a strong example of their amendment, and the students are expected to create something similar to this for each amendment that the group gets. As you can see, it is very comprehensive, very well organized, and does a great job of explaining the First Amendment, which they specifically talk about the freedom of speech. Here's a link to the central online resource every student will have access to. It has bookmarks at the top, which students can use to quickly access anything from the unit. So we can scroll down and see the learning standards, learning objectives. We can get the link to the actual slideshow already shown. We can get all the links to the different handouts. We can go down here and we can look at the infographic from the student and some additional resources that they might need. Again, we use both substitution and augmentation from the SAMR model. We feel the technology used definitely helps improve the unit. The presentation is more engaging than reading from a textbook, and the infographic and Google form allow students to demonstrate knowledge in new ways. So we have many ways to evaluate the students' learning of content, from questions in class discussions to the formal assessment shown earlier in this presentation. To assess the design of the lesson, we will use an anonymous student survey. It will include questions that rank the activities on a scale of 1 to 5. Students can reflect on their favorite activity, as well as share what they may not have liked from the unit. There's even a spot for them to add if there is anything they would like to learn more about. The teacher can use this information to change the lessons for the better. Well, that concludes our final project, Unit Design and the Bill of Rights. Hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.